You believe in the uniform. You believe in the flag. You believe that when you take an oath to the Constitution, your government will stand behind you, especially when you are protecting the foundational principles of morality and law. In the harrowing days after September 11, 2001, the CIA was a crucible of desperation and duty. Every officer knew their job. Find the enemy before they strike again. Our subject, John Kiriakou, was one of the agency's best, a seasoned veteran and the chief of counterterrorism operations in Pakistan. His team's mission was a success that should have been a career highlight. The capture of Abu Zayd, believed at the time to be Al-Qaeda's number 3, but that triumph was instantly eclipsed by a single, casual question asked in the CIA cafeteria. A question that offered a choice between a gold star and a gut-wrenching betrayal of everything America stood for. That question was, do you want to be certified in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques? That moment, the instant Kiriakou saw torture hidden behind a bureaucratic euphemism, became the dividing line of his life. He said no, and that one word of refusal, a principled stand against illegal state-sanctioned violence, led to a commendation. It initiated a political vendetta so ferocious and so complete that he would ultimately become the only CIA officer to face prison time over the torture program. Think about that. Not the architect, not the implementer, but the one who refused to participate and later exposed it. This is not just a story of a whistleblower. It's a terrifying lesson in how power, desperation, and an unelected bureaucracy can turn the very system designed to protect us into a mechanism of self-destruction. The mystery is simple. How does telling the truth become the most dangerous crime a patriot can commit? To understand the price Kiriakou paid, we have to grasp the culture he defied. Kiriakou was already an established officer, an alumnus of volatile postings like Athens Place, where the US government spent more on security than anywhere else, even Beirut. He was part of an organization defined by no compartmentalization, a necessary evil that's post-9/11s metastasized into absolute moral isolation. In February 2002, Kiriakou's operation finally tracked down Abu Zayd. The operation was a massive success, but once the capture was complete, Kiriakou's job was over. When he delivered the prisoner, he wasn't clear to know what came next. The CIA was chomping at the bit to try out a new approach, not developed by career interrogators, but by two contract psychologists, James Mitchell and Bruce J. These men, who would eventually be paid $108 million, reverse-engineered the military's SEER survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training program. They weaponized the tactics designed to help American soldiers resist torture, turning them inward against US detainees. The moral foundation was already cracked. The agency wanted vengeance, and they had a product designed to deliver it, marketed as enhanced interrogation. The stage was set for a dark convergence, desperation for intelligence, a psychological contract, and a senior leadership willing to bend the law. But the real enemy wasn't just Al-Qaeda. It was the deep state itself, a phrase Kiriakou validated, calling it the federal bureaucracy. Unelected, unaccountable, and utterly confident it could outweigh pretty much any president. They were the permanent government, ready to wait out any elected official who stood in their way. Kiriakou's encounter with the program in May 2002 offered him a list of 10 techniques. While some were merely coercive, like the intention slap, others were horrifying, graduating quickly to the truly illegal. The decision was instantaneous for him. This is a torture program. I think it's illegal, and I don't want any part of it. He was the only one. Out of 14 people asked, Kiriakou was the sole officer who said no to the training. For this, he was labeled with a shocking lack of commitment to counterterrorism. But the story of effectiveness offers a devastating counterpoint. Rapport works. While Kiriakou was in the field, FBI agent Ali Sofan used established legal interrogation techniques, conversation, coffee, basic human respect, letting Abu Zubaydah write a letter to his mother. This process yielded actionable intelligence that saved lives, including the wiring diagram of Al-Qaeda stovepipe cells and the crucial identification of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Torture fails. On August 1, 2002, primacy was turned over to the CIA. Within 12 hours, The torture began. Waterboarding, the coffin, the cold cell, and 12-day sleep deprivation. The prisoner went completely silent and remained silent. This was not about intelligence. It was about vengeance and implementing a costly new contract. When Abu Zubaydah's heart stopped during a waterboarding session, he was revived only so he could be tortured more. The dark conclusion. None of it was effective. Kiriakou carried the moral weight of what he had seen and refused to do. He waited for someone else to speak out. Nobody did. He left the agency. The breaking point arrived in December 2007. President George W. Bush, in response to a reporter, looked directly into the camera and denied the practice. "We do not torture." Kiriakou, knowing the truth, called his WIFA senior CIA officer and said, "He is a bald-faced liar." 2 days later, Bush reiterated the denial, but added a caveat. "Well, if there is torture, it's because of a rogue CIA officer." Kiriakou understood the threat immediately. They were setting him up. The man who refused the program, the only man to show humanity to the prisoner, would be the fall guy. He called ABC News. His interview was simple. He confirmed the CIA was torturing, that it was official US government policy, not the action of a rogue officer, and that the policy had been personally approved by the president. He told the truth, knowing the cost. The CIA filed a crimes report within 24 hours. The FBI investigated and, a year later, declined to prosecute, stating the information was already public. Red Cross, Amnesty International, and crucially, torture is a crime, and it is illegal to classify a crime for the purpose of keeping it from the American people. Kiriakou was free. Then, the political winds shifted. Barack Obama became president. His deputy national security advisor for counterterrorism was John Brennan, a man Kiriakou had known for 35 years and respected little. Brennan, one of the fathers of the torture program, immediately sent a memo to Attorney General Eric Holder demanding Kiriakou be charged with Holder's team resisted, finding no evidence of Brennan's response was chilling. Charge him anyway and make him defend himself. The charges came, 5 felonious. Kiriakou was threatened with 45 years in prison. The Justice Department prosecutor warned him, "Take this deal, and you may live to meet your grandchildren." The government spent $6 million to prosecute and imprison Kiriakou, the man who blew the whistle, while those who authorized and conducted torture went free. The plea deal forced Kiriakou to admit guilt to violating the Intelligence Identities Protection Act of 1982, a law so rarely used that the last conviction resulted in a 9-month sentence for a secretary who revealed names to her foreign intelligence lover. Kiriakou received 30 months, serving 23. The petty malice of the bureaucracy continued. Kiriakou, who was granted a minimum security work camp by the sentencing judge, was intentionally sent to the Federal Correctional Institution, FCI, Loretto, a low-security prison housing pedophiles and the mafia dons and the drug kingpins. A change Kiriakou believes was orchestrated by an angry John Brennan to make it as difficult as possible. Inside, he was targeted. Prison officials tried to set him up, for example, by telling him an Iraqi inmate wanted him killed, and an attempt to provoke a fight and add years to his sentence. The vindication, however, came while he was still behind bars. The 2014 Senate torture report was released, which proved everything he said was true. Senator John McCain, a former prisoner of war, stood on the floor of the Senate and declared, "If it weren't for John Kiriakou, the American people would never have had any idea what the CIA was doing in their name." Post-prison, the blacklisting was absolute. Rejected by McDonald's, Safeway, Target, and even Uber, because he was a felon. He lost his pension. A legislative fix championed by Senator McCain to reinstate his pension failed after the senator's illness. The deep state had exacted its financial and professional price. Kiriakou's story is not a historical anecdote. It is the blueprint for how powerful institutions neutralize accountability today. The mechanisms of his destruction are still operating, and they are stronger than ever. The charges brought against Kiriakou were a pivotal moment in the weaponization of the Espionage Act of 1917, a law originally designed to prosecute German saboteurs during World War I. 1917 to 2009. Only 3 Americans were charged with espionage for speaking to the media. Under Barack Obama, 8 people were charged with espionage for speaking to the media. The Obama administration, which ran on a platform of hope and change and promised whistleblower protection, prosecuted more alleged leakers than all previous administrations combined. Kiriakou's case was the clear starting gun, setting a precedent that transparency is an act of treason. The chilling message to every potential leaker, every moral dissenter is clear. We will not prosecute torturers, but we will use the full force of a century-old law to bankrupt you in prison, you for decades, and sever you from your family and career. Kiriakou's experience provides a visceral definition of the deep state, a term that is often dismissed as a conspiracy theory. He defines it as the unelected, unaccountable federal bureaucracy. These career officials, not politicians, are the source of genuine, enduring power. Longevity over loyalty. These individuals spend 20, 30, even 40 years in power, convinced they can outweigh pretty much any president. They simply slow roll or sabotage policies they don't like until the elected official leaves office. Insulation from justice. The fact that torturers were protected while the whistleblower was punished demonstrates the ultimate shield of this bureaucracy. Those who violate the law are shielded by need-to-know classifications and the threat of political reprisals. John Brennan, a key figure in the program, succeeded and thrived, becoming CIA director. Kiriakou paid the price for Brennan's vendetta. This system is further compromised by laws like the NDAA National Defense Authorization Act, passed under Obama in 2012, which legalized the propagandization of the American people by the government. The government can now produce and disseminate propaganda to its own citizens, blurring the line between fact and official narrative, making Kiriakou's struggle for truth a perpetual uphill battle for every American. John Kiriakou lost 23 months of his life and his entire career for taking a stand for the rule of law. His life has become a testament to the idea that in a desperate bureaucracy, the most moral act is often treated as the most criminal. Here are 3 undeniable takeaways from his experience. Takeaway 1. Transparency is the greatest deterrent to state crime. The only thing that stopped Kiriakou from being destroyed entirely was the eventual release of the Senate torture report, confirming his truth. When government acts in secret, it enables moral drift and illegality. Accountability requires sunlight. Takeaway 2. The deep state punishes integrity to protect longevity. The prosecution of Kiriakou was not a pursuit of justice. It was an act of corporate self-preservation. By punishing the whistleblower, the system demonstrated its ability to protect the perpetrators and enforce its unwritten code of silence. The system rewards loyalty over truth. Takeaway 3. The Espionage Act threatens every citizen. This century-old law is no longer about catching spies. It is the primary tool used by the executive branch to control the flow of information to the public. If the government can classify a crime to hide it, and then prosecute those who expose it, our fundamental right to a free press is effectively moot. The integrity of the press depends on the protection of sources like Kiriakou remains unpardoned, still fighting for the pension that was stolen from him. Final warning: you can be a patriot, you can be a war hero, and you can be absolutely right. But if the deep state decides you are a threat to their institutional power, they will weaponize the entire legal apparatus to crush you. The integrity of our republic relies on individuals having the courage to speak. Kiriakou survived the prison, the poverty, and the betrayal. Yet he still stands to tell this story. The question is not if the deep state is real, but whether we, the people, will have the courage to demand its accountability. If you found this story disturbing, you need to understand the systemic rot that enables it. Let us know in the comments. If you were in Kiriakou's shoes, would you have said no and risked everything?